Listen to that. Beautiful morning, Saturday morning, northeast Oklahoma. It's actually cool, about 70 degrees. So, what are we going to do today? Here's the OK Turbo Shop. So we got a rocket launch next Sunday. Today's Saturday, first day of August, 2020. I'm going to get this 1/3 scale Iris ready to go. So haven't flown it yet. Last night I kind of got the recovery system together, got the parachutes in, weighed it. With everything in it, no motor. It's just right at 9 pounds. So I've got a 38 millimeter motor mount in it now. That does switch out. I can put a 54 in it. But by the time we get into 54 millimeters, you're mostly talking about J motors, and I'm just a level 1. So I may do my level 2 on this rocket. Not yet. So for its maiden flight, I'm going to go on a Aerotech I think it's a 435, I-435T, which is Blue Thunder. So it should light really quick. So today, what I'm going to do is, since I haven't flown it yet, I want to try some ejection charges. So I made up some ejection charges. We'll try the main, try the ejection charge in the for the drogue section. I ran some simulations on RockSim, so that kind of shows, you know, what I'm talking about there. 9-second delay I-45T. I've calculated the drogue black powder charges. Here's the simulation data. So that simulates to about 1,700 feet. And what I'm going to do is, I've done that on RockSim, and I'm also going to do it on a simpler program just called Thrust Curve. So I'll show you that, kind of how that goes too, see how they compare. So anyhow, so today we're going to be testing ejection charges. So I'm going to get all that set up, and I'll be back in a flash. Okay, we got our Saturday morning, week before rocket prep happening here. So here's the 1/3 scale Iris. So just kind of show you a little intro here on what we're doing. So the motor I'm going to try and fly this on is an Aerotech I-435T, which actually goes in the RMS 38-600 case. I don't have a 600 case. I've got a 360 case. Then I've got a 720 case. So, I mean, a lot of you already know this, but, you know, this is just for helping people that aren't around this a lot. So what you can do is you can get these spacers, and there's actually a couple of them in this case here too. So you can adapt to the next size smaller or two within this 720 case. Since I don't have a 600 case, 600 Newton second case, I'm going to use this one. So what's going to happen is the motor will be assembled as you normally would. That's a lot of threads. Except on this end, what will happen is you'll have, you know, all your grains, your nozzles down on this end. It comes through O-rings, stuff like that. There's a Ford seal disc that goes in it. Actually, I can use the fancy looking one. I'll probably use this one though. These are just the forward end ejection charge. Okay, so what'll happen is all that'll go in. This will go in. Put that. No. Then screw in like that. So that'll all end up like that. So that takes up that extra space. That's what I'm saying. So basically what happens is that part is your 600 Newton second part of the case. So hopefully I didn't just ramble on and not make any sense, but that's just the way I do it. So anyhow, so that's the case we're going to be using when the motor gets here. So I'm probably not going to get the motor until we get to the field. So what I'm going to do for the testing today, if I can get to the point here, is I'm going to use this one. It's just another 360 case I have. This is back in the day they sold what was called monster motors. These were Aerotech licensed or approved motor casings that you could buy. There was Dr. Rocket, then there was like Monster Motors. There used to be several more of these happening, and then the whole thing with the ATF happened, and things kind of slowed down for people. But anyhow, so I'm going to put this case in the rocket because when I'm testing this ejection charge for the drogue chute for the lower booster section for the sustainer, whatever you want to call it, I'll need something in here because you can't just have the pressure blowing out. So I'm using this empty motor case. I want to put it inside the rocket. I've taped off the forward end so that when that goes in, that'll simulate, you know, a rocket motor in there. And the tape on the end is really just kind of keep it from messing. There's a very small hole. You'll lose a little bit of pressure through that small hole for the ejection charge, but we're not going to worry about that because actually probably the delay is still there anyway. It's still burning because our electronics are going to fire off that ejection charge before the motor burns out. I'm going to try and get the motor as a backup, so I'll have a delay that's a few seconds longer than what the actual apogee charge goes off. So that'll be inside there. So I'll get that tightened up inside of there, and then when I come back, we'll try and set something up so we can test these charges. So part of prepping your rocket for its first flight, because you don't really know what it's going to do, and this was all scratch built, so I mean I don't have any really manufacturer's recommendations on motors and things like that. So I modeled it in RockSim, and of course the thing about RockSim, it gives you, you know, you put in all the components, you basically build it like a CAD program. It'll show you the center of pressure, which has to do with, you know, the geometry of the rocket. So on this one I've marked that. Well, this sweet little sticker here that a sticker shop got for me. So I got a whole sheet of those. So I've marked that. So when you go up for the first time to the RSO table, what you do is that's where the center of pressure is. So where does it balance? Well, of course the motor will be in it, so it'll be a little bit further back. So then you can figure out how many calibers of stability you have. So with a smaller motor, it's going to be pretty far forward, which is a little bit overstable. So we'll make sure it's a calm day. Hopefully it'll be like this morning, which is just, like I said, just a beautiful, calm, birds tweeting. So hopefully it's like that. So if it's a morning like this next Sunday, you know, basically a week from now, that's what we'll do is we'll go ahead and launch this thing and put it up on that, see how it goes. So anyhow, sorry, I start to ramble a lot. So in RockSim, this is what I got. 9 pounds dry. I put in the I-435T. It sims to about 1,700 feet. It says a 9-second delay. And then I've also calculated these charges for the main and the drogue section. So I'll show that. The other thing, though, is showing my iPad here. There's a pretty simple program called Thrust Curve that you can load on your phone, or if you bring an iPad. So what I've done here is you basically, it's, you know, it doesn't go through all the center pressure and stuff like that, but it basically gives you a simple simulation on your rocket for altitude on different motors. So I've already done it. I've already put in, you know, the 4-inch iris. You give it some dimensional data, 4-inch diameter, dry weight 9 pounds, motor mount size, motor mount length. On the CD, it kind of gives you, is it simple, average, surface finish? You know, it's like on the Praetor, well, that's going to have a higher drag coefficient because, I mean, obnoxious fins. But so in this one, it's pretty straightforward rocket, you know, 4 fins, nose cone. I mean, it's scale, but it's fairly simple, straightforward. So just a complexity of simple, surface finish average, and it gives me a CD of 6.6, so that's what it's going to say. So I accept that. Then you go down here and you go, I want to run the motor guide. Run the motor guide. And then it does some calculating. 54 motors will work. So I've already decided on the Airtech I-435T. So there it is. So it gives me a simulation of a 1745. So compared to the RockSim, I mean, it's fairly close. So for instance, here's another one that I did, 4-inch iris, and I simulated on one of my favorites, the Loki I-405. It says 1,400 feet. And so what did RockSim say? 1457. So it's pretty close. So if you're out on the field and you don't have RockSim with you, I mean, it's not going to give you your center of pressure, all that kind of jazz. But it will give you kind of simulated altitude, so that's something you can put on your flight card. So there's part of that. So I'll come back here in a second and we'll talk about ejection charges. Okay, let's talk about how we calculate ejection charges. So there's several of these calculators out there, but this is the one off the Hera Rocketry website. So I've logged into that, gone to that website, and you just look up black powder charge calculator and this will come up. So it's like this little online spreadsheet. So you put in the diameter that you're looking at. So for this rocket, let's see what it is for the drogue section. So motor mount tube is about 18 inches. So right there, about to the A in Alexandria. So here you've got 3.5 inches of that coupler that's going in. So the section we're talking about pressurizing is about a foot long. So we'll put an ejection charge right here, or this is the electronics bay. Charge here, and we'll try and pop, either tail back or the rest of the nose section off. So that's the section that we're looking at. So you put in the length, because basically you need the volume that you're trying to pressurize. And they have some rules of thumb here. It's trying to get a typical pressure of 8 to 16 psi, which turns out on a 4-inch rocket, you want 100 to 200 pounds of force to pop that off. Now what I use as shear pins are just regular old toothpicks, diamond toothpicks. So I'll kind of show that when we put that together, but I stick that in a hole, break it off. Learned that trick from Scott at SBR, Binder Rocketry, Scott Binder. So use that. I was using masking tape, kind of hold it together. I don't use shear pin, especially on these. This one does have fiberglass on it, but it's not a fiberglass tube. It is a cardboard tube that's been fiberglass. So anyhow, so what it's saying for 200 pounds, it's saying 1.2 grams of black powder. Well, that's pretty strong. So let's put in, let's say right in the middle of the range between 100 and 200 is 150 pounds of force. And so that's 0.9 grams. So I've got what I said was 1 gram and 1.5 grams. Oh, come on. So the max probably would be, let's say, it says 1.2 grams. So I've got some already weighed out here that I've made up. So a couple of 1.5 grams, there's a 1.3. So I may go ahead and make one that's like a 1.0 and see how that goes and just kind of build our way up on this. Here's a little 35 millimeter film canister. That's what I've got, a little bit of 4F black powder in. I use these fancy little scoops to measure it out. Turns out that when you're dealing in small amounts of black powder, and nothing's like exact here, but cc's pretty much translate to grams. And I'll kind of show you how I put one together. So that's how we're going to make the black powder charge. A little piece of paper here, pour it in. Hopefully I can set this up so y'all can see this, but I don't get too fancy with it. I don't usually use like charge cups and things like that. I usually just make them up with a little end of a glove tip. So let me set up and we'll make a 1 gram charge. Okay, let's make a 1 gram ejection charge. So here's just a rubber glove. Cut the end of it off. Next thing to do is measure out our 4F black powder. Right in there. Here's the 1 gram or 1 cc scoop, which will equate to about 1 gram. So I like to use these little charges that come like in the Aerotech reloads. It just makes it a lot easier to kind of keep it from spilling it, and when I get ready to put that in the glove tip, that'll just make that easier. So scoop it in, tap, tap, tap. Yeah, let's go ahead and let's do this. This is what I mean, it's easier to go here. Little piece of paper. Get all that in there. This may be a lot of transferring, but this is what I do. So right, wrong, or indifferent. Pour it into our little powder vial. Get it all in there. And this is an official rocket scrap paper. Click that down. Okay, so here we go. Sorry. They're a little, and this is what I mean, it's just a little bit easier to handle this thing when you're trying to get it into the end of this glove. So I've already got some pieces of masking tape. You can see prepped and ready to go. I mean, when you want to do this neat and quickly, that's one of the keys is getting kind of things prepped. Let's go ahead and close up this powder just to, it's one of the rules, keep your powder dry, right? Okay. We can also get this guy ready. This is just one of those MG, I think I got it from Chris at CS Rocketry, electric matches, just your standard type. You get them from all the vendors. The orange ones actually came, these orange ones actually came from Tim at Wildman. So I got a bunch of these. Just kind of straighten it out a little bit here so I can kind of push this red protective. And there's the tip of your E-match. Okay, so now I think I'm ready. Let's get all this stuff kind of out of the way for the big operation here. So, get the glove tip. And really, you just kind of pour it in. Tap, tap, tap. Put down, down. Get this guy. What I do, stick it into that black powder. Got a little ball of it down there now. And then I just kind of hold it against the wire and I start wrapping. Just trying to make a little. I'm going to grab a piece of the masking tape with my other hand. Start there. Kind of start wrapping. Hold it all together. Then just work your way down. Doesn't have to be neat. This thing is going to blow up anyway. Just want to kind of hold it all together. Then I just start applying appropriate pieces of tape till I feel like I'm done. Let's go around here. Like I said, just kind of squish it all together. I'll usually give it one of these end over end, kind of like that. Kind of twist it. And once I get to this point, I'm pretty much, okay, that's good. That's got plenty of masking tape. I'll go ahead and pull this little red cover back up and just kind of help neatify the end of that. I'm calling that 1 gram. So I'm going to tape this on. And mark it 1.0. So that's what we're going to try first on the 1/3 scale iris. There you go. That's all there is to that. Okay, I'm going to try and get this where you all can see it. So I got my rocket laid out. This is the other thing that kind of drives me crazy sometimes, because you spend all this time building a rocket and making it look nice and pretty, but then you get all this hanger rash before you even get to fly it by banging around in the shop. So I've already hit the nose cone tip a couple of times, like on these, on the garage door brackets and stuff, tracks. So anyhow, so electronics bay is right here. So kind of, let's break off this tail end. Let's get this ejection charge set in here. So just pull it apart. And then we look for, so there's a vent hole right there. So let's kind of get this going. So we're not going to actually hook it up to the altimeter. We're just checking the size of the ejection charge. So I hope you can see all this. So I twisted the wires together just to keep them. You don't want any little static discharge or anything like that. So what I'm going to do is try and feed this up through this vent hole. This wire. Oh, goodness gracious. And I did it. So So here we go. So let's see if we can do this without messing up too badly. So the way all this will go together in the field is I'll actually terminate the ejection charge right there on that little terminal block, little screw terminals there. And then usually what I'll just run the wire up and I'll tape it around here somewhere. And I'll usually do some extra wraps of tape just to kind of protect that little piece of the shock cord, the harness. I'm not supposed to call them shock cords, I guess. So anyhow, so what I'm going to do is try and get this taped in here, and then can't do that with one hand on the camera. So let me do that, and I'll show you what I end up with. Okay, the masking taping is done. So what I've done here is I've got the ejection charge. I kind of taped up around, where the recovery harness is tied onto that. Made several wraps of masking tape all the way up to protect my shock cord protector. Masking tape is cheap. So there's the charge there. It's kind of all taped up there. I covered up the terminal block just to protect it, because that even after I'm in the field, what I'll do is I'll terminate those, screw them in, tighten it down, then I'll put masking tape all over that. And the idea is just to protect as much as you can from that black powder, because it's pretty corrosive and makes a mess. So when it's all done, you take the rocket apart, you can just peel off all that tape and throw it in the trash. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of stick it together and show you how I put in the toothpick shear pins. Okay, so here's a low-tech OK Turbo shear pin, as I learned from Scott Binder. So a little 16th inch hole drilled all the way through. Stick this in, kind of twist it, but then just go around, and break off that tip and leave it in there. So that's one little shear pin. Got one on the other side. Same deal. There you go. Toss that. Put those super cheap. Kind of put a little tape there around the hole, just kind of hold it, keep it from catching on anything while I set all this up. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go out here and we're going to set this up in the backyard and fire it off and see what happens. Okay, here's the setup. I've got laid out here. Got a red 2-wheel cart with a mechanic seat. So it's going to blow apart here. So it's clear. So this will go shooting out that way. Got a heavy wax cotton tarp that kind of weighed everything down. Got my leads hooked up. Make sure they're not touching. So now it's a matter of getting out of the line of fire, and I'm just going to use a battery. I always put fresh batteries in my altimeter, so you end up with a lot of batteries that are actually really good, and it shouldn't take very much to set this off. So we're going to hopefully not wake up the neighbors. Usually it's just a big horn. It's not very loud. I'm going to set up this camera so I can stand back. Make sure we got a shot of this. So you can see what happens. I think I will put on some goggles just to, in case something does fly in. Okay, I've got my safety goggles. Always a good idea to have a pair of safety goggles when you're working around these black powder charges. So here we go. And to make this happen, it's just a matter of touching the lead. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, that certainly made it happen. It's separated. I don't know if it needs much more than that. That was 1 gram. I may give it a little extra when we get to the field, depending on how confident I am. But that's a good separation. So 1 gram works there. And probably what I'll do is on that bulkhead there, I'll write down 1 gram. That way I'll never forget that that's what it takes. So there you go. The GoPro's about to run out of battery, so I'm going to go charge it up just to show you kind of what happened here. So you can kind of see when the charge went off, there's a little charring there. That's what happened to the ejection charge, but actually went pretty good. Okay, set up to test the main charge. Hopefully this will be a little more energetic. The drogue charge was a little weak. I might go bigger on that. But the other thing about the drogue charge is there's also the motor backup, and I usually go heavy on the motor backup just to blow anything else out. So we're probably still pretty good there. This one we want to get a pretty good shot out of it. So it's got a little bigger area, so there's bigger charge. It's 1.5 grams, so same kind of deal. Leads running out. Set up over here. The video camera. GoPro's ready. I'm not very high tech here, so I'm trying. Okay, safety goggles on. Battery in hand. So let's go here. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ah, much better. Definitely cleared it out there. Shoot, got drug out really nicely. Yep, definitely good with that. This is a big NASA style shoot. Oh, it's going to be so much fun. Okay, there we go. Kind of let that settle down. Still smoking a bit right there. That 4F black powder is pretty smoky. Excellent. Okay, just tested the main charge. Let's take this guy apart. These little rivets. Pop them out. When this is all brand new, these rivets are tight. But I'd rather have them tight when they're new than loosen up. Okay, the rivets are out. Let's see what we got here. I guess maybe I should have left that tape on. Well, damn. Wrestle with that. Go ahead and leave a piece of tape there just to keep that from messing with us too much. Oh, okay, here we go. What have we got? Like I said, it's the whole wrestle it around kind of a thing. Check the camera, see what you can see. Hopefully it wasn't just my back. Okay. This all out. Here's the charge. Worked really good. Smells like black powder. It's a good smell. Smells like a rocket. There we go. Not really even that much charring in there. Sometimes if that charge ends up right next to the tube, you'll get like a spot, but that actually worked really well. Okay. Call that a success, and I think she's ready to fly. Just need a motor and a week of waiting around. So, can't wait to do that launch video. Maybe next week. Pray for good weather.